Funding for this CyberWire podcast is made possible in part by Tanium. At Tanium, they know that in a distributed world, both business operations and agencies' missions increasingly begin at the endpoint. Tanium provides unified endpoint management and security for the most demanding IT environments. Their approach decentralizes data collection, aggregation, and distribution down to the endpoint, delivering transformational scale, speed, and reliability across your distributed workforce. Learn why the Department of Defense and half of the Fortune 100 trust Tanium at Tanium.com. Another security company discloses a brush with the threat actor behind Solorigate, advice on hardening Microsoft 365 against that same threat actor. Chimera turns out to be interested in airlines as well as semiconductor manufacturing intellectual property. Former President Trump's last executive order addresses foreign exploitation of infrastructure as a service products. Joe Carrigan looks at hardware key vulnerability. Our guest is Chris Eng from Veracode with insights from their State of Software Security report. And investigation of that laptop stolen from the Capitol continues. From the CyberWire studios at Data Tribe, I'm Dave Bittner with your CyberWire summary for Wednesday, January 20th, 2021. MalwareBytes has disclosed that it was hit by the same nation-state actor implicated in the SolarWinds breach. Note that this isn't another victim of the SolarWinds supply chain compromise. MalwareBytes doesn't use SolarWinds, but rather another victim of the same threat actor. MalwareBytes said, quote, "Evidence suggests abuse of privileged access to Microsoft Office 365 and Azure environments," end quote. They added that the Microsoft Security Response Center alerted the company to the problem. The damage seems to have been confined to a limited subset of internal company emails, and there was no evidence found to suggest that on-premises or production environments were compromised. Those interested in hardening themselves against this sort of activity would do well to consult some advice FireEye's Mandiant unit published yesterday. They outlined protective measures available for use against the threat actor they track as UNC 2452, and they concentrate on the attack vector that runs through Microsoft 365. Mandiant addresses four basic approaches UNC 2452 has used. First, they steal Active Directory Federation Services token signing certificate and then forge tokens for arbitrary users that enable them to authenticate themselves into a federated resource provider as any user whatsoever, with no need to get that user's credentials. Second, they modify or add trusted domains in Azure AD to add a new federated identity provider that the attacker controls. The result also enables tokens to be forged for arbitrary users. Third, they've been able to compromise credentials of on-premise accounts synchronized with Microsoft 365, and specifically accounts with high privileges, with obvious consequences for their access to targeted organizations. And fourth, they've added new applications or service principal credentials to backdoor an existing legitimate Microsoft 365 app in order to use such privileges as that app may have. Mandiant notes in a by-the-way fashion that these things have been done by UNC 2452 and others, and FireEye has kept its attribution of the threat actor ambiguous, so who knows how many groups may be active. FireEye did say last week that identifying the principal threat actor as Russian is plausible from what we've seen, which agrees with public assessments by U.S. officials. Attribution takes time, but signs point to Russian intelligence services, to one of the cozier members of Huggy Bear's sleuth. NCC Group and its Fox IT subsidiary have found that a Chinese threat actor, hitherto known for collecting against Taiwan's semiconductor industry, has a much more extensive target list. The targets are now believed to include airlines, and where the attack on semiconductor company networks aimed at intellectual property theft, the airlines are of interest because of the personal data they hold. Apparently, the group is seeking to collect information about individuals of interest and also to harvest such credentials as may be available to them. Cycraft researchers called the group Chimera, and they say it uses its take in credential stuffing and password spraying attacks against the individual's organizations. Former U.S. President Trump yesterday issued an executive order outlining measures to control foreign malicious use of infrastructure as a service products. The EO, whose title is Executive Order on Taking Additional Steps to Address the National Emergency with Respect to Significant Malicious Cyber-Enabled Activities, is designed, Reuters reports, to restrict transactions between cloud service providers and foreign customers likely to misuse such services for cyber attacks. The Secretary of Commerce was given the leading role, directing the Secretary to propose for notice and comment regulations that require United States IaaS providers to verify the identity of a foreign person that obtains an account. Commerce is expected to coordinate its work under the executive order with the Secretary of Defense, the Attorney General, the Secretary of Homeland Security, and the Director of National Intelligence. Then National Security Advisor Robert C. O'Brien explained the motivation for the order as follows, quote, "Foreign malicious cyber actors threaten our economy and national security through the theft of intellectual property and sensitive data, and by targeting United States critical infrastructure. By gaining access to United States IaaS products, foreign actors can steal the fruits of American innovation and prepare destructive attacks on our nation's critical infrastructure with anonymity. Malign actor abuse of United States IaaS products has played a role in every cyber incident during the past 4 years, including the actions resulting in the penetrations of United States firms FireEye and SolarWinds." End quote. What the new administration will do with the order isn't known. President Biden was inaugurated a few hours ago. Presidents may cancel predecessors' executive orders, but they also may and often do keep them in force. President Trump's 11th hour EO, for example, cited in its first paragraph an executive order President Obama issued in 2015. Administrations change, but a lot of challenges endure. Prominent among those challenges, in cybersecurity at least, is the sort of abuse committed in the Solorigate incident. The Philadelphia Inquirer reports that Riley Williams, an alleged participant in the Capitol riots of 2 weeks ago, has now been charged with felony theft in connection with the taking of a laptop from U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office. Ms. Williams had been charged Sunday with misdemeanors involving disorderly conduct and illegally entering the Capitol. The possibility that Ms. Williams took the laptop with the intention of offering it to a third party who would subsequently sell it to Russia's SVR remains under investigation. That particular sale is said to have fallen through when the middleman, woman, or persons withdrew from the deal for unknown reasons. As they say, investigation continues. And now, a word from our sponsor, KnowBe4. There's a reason more than half of today's ransomware victims end up paying the ransom. Cybercriminals have become thoughtful, taking time to maximize your organization's potential damage and their payoffs. After achieving root access, the bad guys explore your network, reading email, finding data troves, and once they know you, they craft a plan to cause the most panic, pain, and operational disruption. Ransomware has gone nuclear. The folks at KnowBe4 have an upcoming webinar that'll get you up to speed on ransomware. In this webinar, you'll find out why data backups, even offline backups, won't save you, why ransomware isn't your real problem, and how your end users can become your best last line of defense. Go to knowbe4.com/ransom to learn more about the webinar. That's knowbe4.com/ransom. And we thank KnowBe4 for sponsoring our show. The team at Veracode recently released their 11th annual version of their State of Software Security Report. Chris Eng is Chief Research Officer at Veracode, and he joins us to share their findings. Chris, welcome to the CyberWire.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Well, let's get started with some basics here. This is your 11th time around with this State of Software Security Report. What were some of the outstanding things that you found this time?
Well, just for a little bit of background, this is the biggest security report of software anywhere that I know about. We take all of the applications that are scanned through our platform and basically do a lot of analysis to try and find trends and interesting things about software. There are 130,000 applications in this data set, over 1 million scans, and over 10 million flaws. So, so it's nice to be able to kind of see what's happening, what's the current state of things out there, and how is software security getting better or in some cases worse. So this time we found, probably unsurprisingly, most applications do have security flaws. 3/4 of them had at least one. But most apps don't have severe vulnerabilities. Only about 1/4 of them had a high or critical severity flaw. But one thing that's still an issue is how people are getting after fixing those flaws. Half of security findings are still unfixed 6 months after discovery. And so we spent a bunch of time going into some of the factors that may correlate with better or worse fix times. And we spent a little bit of time on that as well.
This is your 11th version of this report. Are there any big picture trends that you all have been tracking over time?
Well, we're always looking at kind of a breakdown of the categories of flaws that we see. And, I can go back to volume 1 and we are still seeing the same types and categories of flaws as we were back then. What we are seeing, is a change in language selection, as you might expect. Like native applications like C++ apps are declining, whereas web applications are becoming a lot more prevalent. And so the types of vulnerabilities that are present in web apps are obviously increasing. But even though we haven't kind of as an industry managed to eliminate entire categories, I think the reason for that is, going back to our first volume of this was a time when companies were just applying security testing to their most high-profile applications, right? Maybe their 5 or 10 most important applications. But these days, every company is a software company, and every company has hundreds, if not thousands, of applications. And so what they've been able to do over that time is to scale this type of testing across their entire software portfolio. And so you have applications now that are being scanned that have never been scanned before. And there's a lot of catching up to do. So the industry is definitely maturing, and we can see that just in the growth of the activity, right? I mentioned 130,000 applications in this volume. The previous volume, just a year ago, was around 80,000 applications. So you're seeing this immense growth in how seriously companies are taking security and how well they're baking it in to their process.
That's Chris Eng. He's Chief Research Officer at Veracode. We're speaking of their State of Software Security Report. And now a message from our sponsor, CyberReason. If you're a defender fighting to protect your organization from the dark forces of cyber attackers, it might seem attackers have the advantage. To win, they only need to be successful once. As a cyber defender, you must be successful in ending attacks every single time. CyberReason reverses the attacker's advantage. They put the power back in your hands. Their future-ready attack platform gives defenders the wisdom to uncover, understand, and piece together multiple threats, and the precision focus to end cyber attacks instantly on computers, mobile devices, servers, and the cloud. Wherever your organization is being threatened, CyberReason is ready to win the battle against cyber attacks, with you and for you. Join them and the world's leading companies. Together, we are the defenders. CyberReason. End cyber attacks. From endpoints to everywhere. Learn more at cyberreason.com. And joining me once again is Joe Carrigan. He's from the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute and also my co-host over on the Hacking Humans podcast. Hello, Joe.
Hi, Dave.
Interesting story from the Hacker News. This is about an attack going after some Google security keys, some YubiKeys. What's going on here, Joe?
Right. So I frequently talk about everybody, using multi-factor authentication. And I frequently say the best form of that is some kind of physical security token like the Google Titan or like a YubiKey, because those things are impossible to intercept. At least we don't know of a way to intercept them along the communication chain right now. That may change in the future. But what these guys have done is this is Ninja Labs, and what they have done is they have found a way to read the keys from the elliptical curve digital signature algorithm that are stored on the device. And this is I'll say this is the keys to the kingdom. And what that is if I have these keys, these private keys, then I can sign things, which means I can commit the multi-factor authentication process flawlessly. Right? Now, there's a caveat here. Maybe you shouldn't be too worried, because this is a side channel attack, meaning that they're using a physical read on the device while the device is powered up, right? So what do they have to do? They actually have to get this device from you, and then they have to take it apart so they can put a sensor near a chip on the device so they can watch the data moving around on this device, and using an algorithm, an AI algorithm or a machine learning algorithm, they can deduce the keys after 6 hours. So the threat model is somebody's going to have to come into your house or come into your office, take the key without you noticing it, be able to disassemble it, take the cover off of it, and have, I think it was $17,000 worth of equipment. That's a lot of money for equipment. It is certainly not outside the range of possibility for a very advanced adversary.
Sure.
Right. This is the James Bond kind of stuff that I'm sure spies do all the time.
Right.
But, nobody beyond that is going to be really able to pull this off. They're going to try other ways to get into your account. What is also interesting to me in this is that only certain of these security keys are vulnerable to this attack, because what they're doing is they're using a physical byproduct of the way the data is stored on these chips. And just because you have one model or another model of this device, that doesn't change the fact that those keys still have to exist in a very real form on these devices, in the form of stored memory, and that those keys have to be used in a very real way that is detectable in the universe, right? That we can put a sensor near it. So I think that we're going to see more of these kind of attacks on a broader range of devices over time. I checked the YubiKeys that I have, and they're not on the list of affected devices, but all the Google Titans are on the list of affected devices.
Right.
Does that mean that Google has to do something to better shield the devices? Maybe some tamper-resistant technology could go in here to stop this from happening.
Yeah. I can say I can imagine in the spycraft situation of someone, and not just removing the one that you have, but swapping it out for another one. Because if you're not using this every time you log in, then perhaps you wouldn't notice that a different one had been swapped in within the amount of time that they need to do what they needed to do. But again, there's such an edge case here.
It is.
I don't think the take home here is, for me anyway, this is interesting research. Always good to find out when there's an unexpected vulnerability. But no reason to take your Google Titans or your YubiKeys and throw them in the trash yet. And unless you know, if it is, who you are, right?
Right. Exactly.
Right. The people who this affects, they know who they are.
Right. They've already gotten the memo.
If you don't know, then you're probably fine.
Yeah.
But interesting research for sure. Again, you said it's from the folks at Ninja Lab. And it's an interesting read. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, do check it out. I said this particular article comes from the Hacker News. So interesting stuff, huh?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. I'm always fascinated by how real and physical the things like the internet are. The internet isn't this nebulous cloud that's out there. There's actually computers that run it, right?
Yeah.
And they're all over the place. And
yes, they are. Clever humans.
And this to me is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. Joe Carrigan, thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure, Dave.
Thanks to the sponsors who make the CyberWire possible, especially our supporting sponsor, the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute, providing the foundational knowledge to meet the growing need for highly skilled information assurance and privacy professionals. And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. And for professionals and cybersecurity leaders who want to stay abreast of this rapidly evolving field, sign up for CyberWire Pro. It'll save you time and keep you informed. Investment in knowledge pays the best interest. Listen for us on your Alexa smart speaker, too. The CyberWire podcast is proudly produced in Maryland out of the startup studios of Data Tribe, where they're co-building the next generation of cybersecurity teams and technologies. Our amazing CyberWire team is Elliot Peltzman, Puru Prakash, Kelsey Bond, Tim Nodar, Joe Carrigan, Carol Terrio, Ben Yellen, Nick Valecki, Gina Johnson, Bennett Moe, Chris Russell, John Petrick, Jennifer Iben, Rick Howard, Peter Kilpie, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here tomorrow. In the turbulent security space that's filled with overhyped solutions and empty promises, Red Canary breaks through with radical transparency and a laser focus on delivering outcomes. They are relentless in their vision to create a world where every organization can achieve its mission without fear of cyber attacks. Great security operations depend on detection and response capabilities that reduce the time attackers can spend in your network. That means having detailed visibility and broad detection in the places where they operate, your endpoints, your network, and your cloud environments. Red Canary is passionate about improving outcomes, not just for their customers, but for the entire community. You see that passion in the content they deliver and via their open source projects like Atomic Red Team. At the end of the day, Red Canary is your security ally. See what it's like to have a partner in the fight. Visit redcanary.com today. And we thank Red Canary for sponsoring our show.